all people can relate, that we tend to judge certain feelings as being like acceptable or not acceptable or good or bad. And it's like, oh no, I only want to feel the good ones. I don't want to feel the bad ones. But as we're doing that and trying to, like, when we're judging our feelings, we're actually cutting ourselves off from our wholeness.
Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome back to another IG Live with My Sex Bio. Today we are going to be talking to Stacie Ysidro.
Hey,
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So, for everyone who is joining, this is Stacie Ysidro. She is the founder of Holistic Progressions, which is a sober sex coaching business in Tampa, Florida. And she's also a certified erotic blueprints coach, which is so cool, and I hope we have at some time to tap into that, and a spiritual life coach, as well as so many other things. Thank you for being here for this quick conversation about some of the things that you do and how it relates to sex and sexuality.
Thank you for asking. So in my personal journey in recovery, I have found that people that are in recovery or, just starting in recovery or even been in recovery for a while, the area of sexuality is not really addressed. And a lot of times people will use substances to numb out their feelings and to, I always say it's like seeking pleasure or avoiding pain. And I think that a lot of people do that in life. And even if they don't have issues with substance use and abuse, when I talk to people about sober sex, they're like, look at me like I have three heads, like you have to include alcohol with sex. So even if there's not an issue with substance use, it seems to always be incorporated into like taking the edge off or, getting rid of their nerves or getting up the liquid courage to approach someone. So yeah, this can apply to people in recovery or not. And I really am opening up the conversation around what does it mean to step into pleasure consciously and authentically without having to use substances to alter our state of being. So one thing that I found is that people really want connection and intimacy. And when they're using substances, it actually disconnects them from their bodies, from their partners. So, and stepping into sobriety, like you're really getting to know yourself all over again.
Yeah, that's so true. That's a really interesting perspective. And I feel like there might be so right now, basically, I'll step back a little bit. We are, for the month of February, talking about sex and the senses. And I think I always considered like certain substances, like, for example, marijuana, if that's legal where you are, as a way being able to let go of like insecurities in my body and focus on more the sensations than like my brain, than like the things that are going on in my brain. I can see how there's ways in which it's so like it's very much removing yourself from your body, depending on what substances you partake in. How do you see sober sex enhancing or changing your experience within your body and like the different sensations at play?
So one thing that I've noticed is, a lot of people have challenges just like what you're saying, like getting out of their head and stepping into their bodies. And so that is actually part of that journey to experiencing pleasure in your body and getting out of your head. So it starts with really being able to heal some of those things that are keeping us stuck in our head and also wiring our bodies for pleasure. Because we're so often walking around kind of disconnected and in our headspace, excuse me, that we don't really feel what's going on in our bodies. So it's like our head and our heart are out of alignment. And so one of that journey is really stepping into that heart space and stepping into embodiment and discovering what sensation feels like on your body and what do you actually like, what actually brings you pleasure and what builds arousal.
Yeah. This often, to me, feels like this idea of like a mindful sexual experience where you're tapping into those senses, which kind of feels like it relates to Tantra in a way. Do you feel like that?
Yes, absolutely. Tantra and sacred sexuality has been a big part of my journey for the last 12 years. And it really is about breathing and connecting with people and energy exchange. So yes, it absolutely has to do with tantric practices. And even if you're not into all of the energetic airy-fairy stuff, there's still ways that you can access pleasure beyond that. And actually, I think one of my superpowers is taking things that are kind of fluffy and non-tangible and making them super practical and applicable to your real life. So finding words.
When we had been talking prior to this conversation, you had mentioned that you're really interested in the concept of feeling your feelings. And I didn't really know completely what you meant by that. I'd love to hear more about what that means and why you're passionate about it.
Oh, geez. Feeling your feelings. It sounds like great and a nice time, doesn't it? Okay. So, especially in recovery, but I think all people can relate that we tend to judge certain feelings as being like acceptable or not acceptable or good or bad. And it's like, oh no, I only want to feel the good ones. I don't want to feel the bad ones. But as we're doing that and trying to, like, when we're judging our feelings, we're actually cutting ourselves off from our wholeness. So I love the analogy. Osho uses it in the book, The Deepest Acceptance by Jeff Foster. He talks about it. It's that we are the whole ocean and the feelings are just waves that come through. So is what happens in life is we identify with that feeling and think that it's us. So it's like, no, I am happy, so I don't feel sad. I don't get angry. Or it's, oh no, I'm angry. Now I'm angry. So that kind of gets us stuck in a space that is blocking our wholeness because we are not angry or happy. We are experiencing anger. We are experiencing happiness. We're all of it. We're the whole entire ocean. We're not just one wave that comes through or one label. So really work with people a lot on having acceptance of their feelings and why they're feeling what they're feeling and learning how to move through those feelings and navigate them in a healthy way without having to use behaviors or coping mechanisms or substances to block those out. Because one thing I can absolutely tell you is what you resist persists. And the more you try to stuff something down and like avoid it, the bigger it's going to come back in your face. And then it's even more difficult to deal with.
Yeah. And as I'm asking these questions, if anyone has your own questions, please throw them in the chat and we can get them answered for you. As you were saying that, I was wondering, like, how does that relate to your sexuality if you are not allowing yourself to embrace your different emotions? Like, how will that translate into more like a sexual relationship with someone?
Not asking for what you want, not knowing what you want, not feeling pleasure in your body, because emotions are energy and motion moving through your body. So we need to start to get into the practice of tapping into those body sensations and getting connected to our body. And once we start to rebuild that connection, then when we do go into sexual spaces, we actually experience the body sensations and we can step into pleasure. Or we may be able to say, ooh, you know what, that really doesn't feel that great. You know, like how often have you gone along with a sexual situation that like you weren't feeling, but like didn't want to say anything about it or felt shame or like, oh no, well, I'm here, so I may as well just do it. Or I don't want to tell them that doesn't feel good because then it's going to hurt their feelings and then it'll be a thing. And so it's like you just kind of wander through and like either fake it or just, you know, and it totally sucks. So as we start to tap into our feelings and our body sensations, we start to learn how to express them and share them with other people. And that can translate into sexuality. And I actually kind of work with people based in sexuality, and then that information gets translated out into the rest of their lives. So sexuality is one of the deepest, most intense, fastest ways to connect to your own like personal growth, spiritual growth, development. It's like this last frontier in personal growth and development. And when you tap into that, it flows into every area of your life, your money, your job, your family, your friends.
Yeah, that is so exactly what we're all about here. One of our biggest, I guess, like mentalities, like one of our guiding mentalities is that like sex education and peace with your sexual self is like means is basically a vehicle for world peace. Like, it's going to cause more peace with yourself, and then therefore with your immediate friends and family and your communities, and out and out and out and out and out. It's just like so much blockage and frustration and misunderstanding and disconnection happens in your sexuality. Yeah. What would you say is if you want to tap more into your sexuality, or like start understanding your body and what it is asking of you, or like what is most pleasurable, what are some easy ways into that mentality, into feeling your feelings and feeling your body?
So I do a lot with breath, movement, and sound. So any activity that gets you moving. So I love lifting weight and really intense physical activity. And so that really helps me clear my head, and it moves energy, especially if I'm like stressed out or frustrated or going through something. Like when I get that really intense workout, moves the energy, clears my mind, and I'm really tuned into my body and focusing on the movement. Sometimes I'm more in the mood for like a deep meditation. So it comes like through stillness and tapping into my body. I always recommend that people turn on some music, and it could be any kind of music, something you like or something that's different than what you would listen to, and just move the way your body wants to move. It doesn't have to be like a dance move. So that's why I say movement, because when we say dance, we think of like it's a performance and I'm doing, the correct movement. Like I'm a professional belly dancer, so I live in that performance world. So it's different when I'm by myself and turn something on and just move the feelings through. I don't have to put words to them, but I can move them and I can feel my body. And I always recommend trying different rhythms and different types of music. So any type of movement, even if it's like yoga or Tai Chi or martial arts or boxing even, any type of movement is really helpful for starting to tune into your body. Another thing that it's a super easy exercise. You can do it just sitting by yourself. I ask people to get comfortable, take a few deep breaths, and think of something that is like your absolute no, like something you are completely against, just absolutely unacceptable. And start to notice what happens in your body and really breathe that in and go deeper into those thoughts about it, and start to write down what body sensations are coming up. Like for me, I'll feel like my blood's racing through my veins, and I notice like my breath changes. It gets shorter and shallow, and I get really tense. My posture changes. Maybe my body temperature will shift. So that's kind of feeling into what your no is, what's like not good for you. And then after that, take a deep breath and shake it all out and then go into your yes. Always end on a high note. So go into your yes and think about something that it just brings you joy and happiness and peace. Like what's fulfilling to you, even if it's like a fantasy or an idea of something. Go into that and then see what your body does. Usually there's deeper breaths and more spacious openness feelings. Sometimes people notice the tension going away in their shoulders, or like an openness in their heart. So by stepping into those kind of two extremes, it will give you a good idea of what something that's a yes to you feels like and what a no feels like. So that's just an easy exercise to start to tune in to your body sensations and that are connected to your thoughts. Super easy, super quick. Anyone can do it.
I love that. And you mentioned music in terms of movement. Is there other ways in which you use sound as a means of tapping?
Yes, absolutely. I tend to do the chakra vowel sounds in my meditations. So like you're in yoga class and everyone ohms together. So those types of sounds, or even singing, because noticing what those sounds are and then listening to songs that I like, I'll notice like there'll be a note that's held on the E, or the ah. And so it's interesting, even just like singing a song that you like can actually move energy and move emotion through sound. And if you need to, like, scream and yell and get it out,
Yes, 100%.
And laughter is great.
Yeah, you say that if you just get yourself laughing, like, you'll feel the difference. It makes you genuinely feel happier. I love that. Well, before we run out of time, I definitely want to tap into, or like touch base with, your work as an erotic blueprints coach. And I think actually Ellie is watching today, which is one of our studio facilitators who is an Erotic Blueprints coach. But for those who don't know, I would love for you to just give a quick synopsis of what that means, what the Erotic Blueprints are, and how you came about
Sure.
becoming a certified coach.
Sure. So the Erotic Blueprints, to succinctly put it, it's like the 5 love languages, but it's for arousal and pleasure. And it gives you an easy way to start to define what you like, what your needs are, what your boundaries are. It creates a way to communicate those with other people. It gives you a really easy language to start to talk with people about your needs and desires, and also even how to relate to people just in life. I've been able to take the blueprints, go into a social situation and read people and learn how to interact with them in a way that they feel more comfortable, which is really interesting. And there is movement and touch that goes with each blueprint. There are words that each blueprint will use, or types of words, and there's even tones of voice. So the blueprints kind of hit that breath movement sound as well. And so yeah, I mean, I could talk about that for a really, really long time, but in general, I would suggest that anyone that's curious is to take the blueprint quiz. And I know that I myself and other blueprint coaches will often do events kind of doing an introduction to the blueprints. I'm going to do one online coming up on Valentine's Day. So if anyone's interested, they could check that out. Yeah. And it really helps you to understand that there's no right or wrong way to experience pleasure, as long as it's consensual, of course, and that there's no hierarchy here. It's just all different. So we believe there's no such thing as sexual incompatibility, and it's just about figuring out what are your superpowers, what are your shadows that you can heal, or how can you turn your shadow into a superpower and use that to your advantage. And then being able to share it with someone else. And you also learn how to please your partner better because you have that understanding of arousal and pleasure within these different blueprints.
Yeah, and people can be like, so from what I understand, there's these like personas or different categories, and you can mix and match. Like you might identify with like parts and parcels of all of them. Is that right?
Right. So there's energetic, sensual, sexual, kinky, and then shapeshifter, which is a little bit of a combination of all of them. So when you go online and take the quiz, it will give you a breakdown of your percentages in each blueprint. So everybody's kind of a mixture of all of them. And it actually does shift and change as you go through life, which is really interesting. You can expand into other blueprints. So say, you have a low kink, but your partner has a higher kink, and you're like, well, what is that about? Like, how can we explore this together? Ooh, we have sensual in common. So let's find a sensual way to step into kink. So it gives you like a bridge to connect. So yeah, everybody is kind of a mixture of those, and it's a matter of figuring out, what are your highest blueprints? And they all have a superpower, and then there's a shadow. So like I said, it gives you the opportunity to heal the shadows or turn them into superpowers.
Yeah, I love that. And so as Abba had said in the comments here, perfect with Sex and the Senses. So how can you like explore the senses through these different blueprints? Like, how would you maybe explore something like touch with someone who is maybe more kinky and someone else who's more sensual? Like, is it possible to find a way to explore like one sense together in two ways?
Yeah, and things can overlap too, so you could do a sensual kinky or an energetic and sensual. So energetic is all about that space between, and it's about the energy, and it's more of like a lighter hovering touch, like barely not even touching, And so with that, that's where you find a lot of the tantra stuff and energy work. And then there's sensual, it's all about the senses. It's the smell, it's the taste, it's the music, it's the atmosphere, like the romance. And they're very much into more of a massaging kind of touch. And both of those are kind of slower, but the sensual is definitely more hands-on. Think of like a massage. And both energetics and sensuals actually need to relax first before they step into pleasure. To whereas moving into the sexual blueprint, that's kind of like your American cultural norm, what you're shown in porn. It's like genital contact, nudity, penetration, have the orgasms, be done, you know, which is a superpower in and of itself. And, you know, one of those kind of shadow sides is, hey, guess what? There's all this other cool stuff too that you get to explore. And sexuals actually need to have sex in order to relax. So there's ways that you can communicate your needs and desires if you have like an energetic and a sexual to where you can come together. You could do an energetic touch over the genitals, you know, so that would be like an energetic sexual touch. And kink is all about taboo. So a lot of times we think like, oh, it's like pain and whips and chains and the drama and all this leather and, you know, yeah, that's an aspect. But the reality is that kink is whatever is taboo to you. So if you never have sex with the lights on and then you turn the lights on, that could be kinky, you know? If you only do one position and you do another one, that could be kinky to you. So there's such a range there to explore. And within that kinky world, you get people that are more psychologically kinky and about like power play dynamics. And then you have people that are more sensation-based kink, that it really is about the intense sensation on the body. So you might be psychologically kinky and low sensation kinky, but you're still kind of kinky. You know? And then the shapeshifter, like I said, is that blend of all of them. So a superpower of shapeshifters is they could be extraordinary lovers because they kind of go into all the blueprints. Shadow side of that is that they could be super complicated and what worked today doesn't work tomorrow. So they really need to learn how to figure out what is it that they want rather than just molding to fit their partners, you know? And then once you figure that out, now we have to learn how to ask for it and then ultimately allow ourselves to receive.
I hadn't thought about that, how you might be kind of molding yourself to your partner's pleasure if you are a shapeshifter. I hadn't really thought about that. It's interesting.
Yeah, so for me, I'm a shapeshifter. I have a high energetic, but I'm very shapeshiftery. And like in the past, I would have a lot of different partners. And I would have one that was like super energetic and very tantra-y. And then I'd have another one that was like more sensual and like with the flowers and stuff. And then I'd have someone that's just like a great sexual feeding blueprint that like that's what it is and it's great and that's enough. Real simple, you know, it's not complicated. And then I'd have people that were like into a little bit more of like power play or sensation items. So it's like I kind of felt like I had to go with these different people to fit all of the things that I kind of wanted to experience. And then I realized like, hey, wait a minute, like I can have all of this, you know, I just get to learn how to communicate that. You know, so if you always feel like you're molding to fit and you never really know what you like, then like you might be a shapeshifter.
Yeah. And yes, exactly what Abba said in the comments, learning how to ask for what you want. That's so important. Well, we're just at about half an hour, so I want to start wrapping this up. And I just wanted to say thank you so, so much. There's a lot more to discuss in all of these categories. And everyone that's interested should go check out Stacie's work. You can head to her Instagram page, or you can go to holisticprogressions.com. I think it's .com.
Yes, thank you.
And we are so grateful to have been able to talk to you. This will be posted on our profile, so it'll be available for anyone to watch whenever they'd like to. And, oh, thank you so much. That's great to hear. Thank you. Yeah, and thank you for being here with us, Stacie. I hope you have a wonderful
I appreciate you opening up the space and allowing me to be part of your mission and journey and to collaborate with you. So thank you so much for being you.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, I hope you have a lovely evening, and we'll look forward to working together again soon.
Okay. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.